Back in the 1950s, Entertaining Comics, otherwise known as EC Comics, specialized in mostly horror and sci-fi themed stories. It put out many great titles such as The Haunt of Fear, The Vault of Horror, and Tales from the Crypt, amongst others. The comics were discontinued after a 5-year run because parents were complaining about it being too violent. That wasn't the last we'd hear of EC Comics, however. Oh no. In 1972, there was the Tales from the Crypt film made with Peter Cushing, and of course, there was the HBO Tales from the Crypt television series. That show became wildly popular, showcasing many famous celebrities, and they were able to include all the graphic violence they wanted since it was on premium cable. There was also Creepshow from 1982, which was an EC Comics-inspired anthology film. Then we have Cellar Dweller, which is yet another EC Comics-inspired film, but this one's pretty lame. It was directed by John Carl Buckler, who was famous for a lot of effects work, and he was also the director for the first Troll movie, which is why you'll see the poster pop up in the background sometimes. This was his second feature, and unfortunately it doesn't do the EC legacy any justice. The opening scene starts with Jeffrey Combs as a cartoonist who draws a comic book called Cellar Dweller. As he's drawing, he finds a satanic book in his basement, and the next thing you know, the stuff he draws on the page becomes reality. The demon that he draws attacks him, so he lights the comic on fire to destroy it, but ends up being consumed by the flames himself. This is an Empire picture, which was Charles Band's production company before he began Full Moon Entertainment, and also the same company that made Reanimator, so it's easy to see how Combs was coerced into appearing in this. It's a shame he's not in the rest of the movie, though, because the rest of the cast is a bore. Then, 30 years after the Combs incident, a girl named Whitney arrives at the same building, which has been made into an artist's academy. The school's run by actress Yvonne DiCarlo, better known as Lily Munster. Whitney basically tells her that Jeffrey Combs' character was her idol, and she wants to follow in his footsteps.
As a child, I collected every issue of Cellar Dweller, no matter how hard they were to track down.
So she joins the school to work on comics. Meanwhile, there's a group of other artists there working on a variety of projects. One of them is Brian Robbins, a popular 1980s sitcom actor. He appeared on Growing Pains, Mr. Belvedere, The Facts of Life, Different Strokes, but he was most well known for Head of the Class. He also appeared in another 80s schlock horror flick, Chud 2, Bud the Chud. He becomes best friends with Whitney, but like the rest of the cast, he has little to offer. Then there's another girl that does these wacky art installation projects. A guy comes out of nowhere and holds her at gunpoint, threatening to steal the artwork. You know, I went to art school and I took all sorts of pretentious art classes like this, and let me tell you, this guy really has to be fucking nuts to actually want to steal college-level art projects. But it turns out that he's just an actor at the school. He's also a writer and couldn't be more cliched. He sits at a typewriter with a bottle of whiskey, and everything he types he says out loud, just so the audience can know what's going on.
The tension between the two girls was thick enough to cut with a knife.
Essentially, what happens is, Whitney starts drawing comics, and the panels start coming alive, just like they did with Jeffrey Combs. The monster gradually kills off the students until finally Whitney has to find a way to destroy it. There's at least one head decapitation that's a pretty nice gore moment, but then other times they cheap out and just throw buckets of blood on the wall. I hate when movies do that. One girl at the school is attacked by the demon, and like I said, everything that's happening is a direct result of what's being drawn in the comic panels. That's fine, but for all this stuff to happen as quick as it does, she'd have to be drawing stick figures. There's no way she could put all that detail into the drawings in such a short time span. The ending to the film doesn't make any sense at all. It desperately tries to have a conclusion, but what they did just doesn't work out. What it really needed was a great twist ending, which was a staple in all the Tales from the Crypt stories, but it just falls flat. In short, this idea would have been okay for a 30-minute TV episode, but they stretched it out so long it just becomes boring. And in fact, they did make it into a Tales from the Crypt episode with a very similar plot called Corman's Calamity. So, unlike this movie, I'm not going to draw out this review any longer than it needs to be. Just skip this movie, and instead watch Tales from the Crypt.
Tales from the Crypt.